Hi, I'm creating this video for the Bel Air Celebrate Recovery Leadership. This is going to be for the GroupMe app, which is the top right app, and groups that I'm in. So this is the CR Bel Air group. There's two channels, I guess they call them. The first one's the main chat, and the second one's the leadership. So in the leadership, if you touch that, it's asking for to keep for privacy or security, I guess. It's asking for when you first join the group, who is your small group leader. So go ahead and put something in there, and then I'm assuming that it will ping me, and it will I'll be able to let you in. So this way we can keep from those like Zoom bombs and hackers and whatever they call them, trolls I think is what they call them. Sorry, that's actually a notification from the other group. This leadership part, I just started putting ideas in. So we should do chips, even if only virtually. We need a prayer request so that leaders can pray over people's requests during the week. That's a very common practice in the other CRs that I've gone to. Something that Saddleback has created, and it's open for any CR. If you text to 83000 the name of the lesson, it will actually send you a document. You can open it in Google Docs, is the easiest, and you can take notes on your phone, and it's really nice. So last night, for example, it was a victory. So you type victory to 83000 and you get the actual documentation. This is just playing around with the calendar, and one of the possible. This was a poll, and it's let's take a poll for date and time, whether we should have a leaders brunch or a men's brunch or breakfast, and possibly when. So maybe end of July. This poll closes on August 5th. I don't know why it only allowed me to go that far. I was reading the Planning Small Groups with Purpose by Steve Gladden. He's a pastor at Saddleback Lake Forest, and this is a very good book about small groups, church small groups, not Celebrate Recovery small groups. But something that did come out that I really liked was, we need to have a vision and a mission, and so that's something we can discuss. And obviously, we want to be able to celebrate recovery, and again, if that is our vision or mission, what are we doing if that's our vision, what is our mission? How are we establishing that celebrating? And which ties into going back to, doing the chips once a month. And this is just some of the comments that I put down. I looked into t-shirts. It's a little bit more complicated. And so there's somebody in Eastside that the ministry leader over there has done some really wonderful t-shirts for them. So I want to speak to him. If we could create an agenda for the leadership meetings, that'd be good. And here's some ideas that I just came up with. Mailing chips. This might be difficult because we're not getting any funding from the church. But again, virtual chips. At least we can recognize people. Yeah, anyways, more on that later. So one group, one Celebrate Recovery from Chicago, Illinois, actually does they meet in person and they do the Zoom. They're continuing the Zoom. But they do recognize people once a month. You can say on Zoom, okay, I have 30 days or 1 year or whatever. And they won't send you the chip, but at least they'll acknowledge you. So that's something. Leaders giving their testimonies, I think that would be very powerful. Be a role model. That's what I'm looking for. Be a role model for others. And even if you don't give the testimony, writing it is actually part of our recovery. That was in the question and answers on Tuesday, and I did do a video on that. So testimony workshops, we can offer that, and that's not very complicated. Basically, you let people download the worksheet from Celebrate Recovery from the app, and you just kind of help them and go through it. A testimony newsletter. This is a little bit more complicated. I guess I'll explain it. One of the suggestions that was done during the questions and answers is, okay, so the question was, how do we know if we have pastor support? And I remember, no, it wasn't Johnny. It must have been Rodney from the global rep. He said, if you've got lights and a room, you've got pastor support. And one thing that's leading to this was, one idea is when you have people graduate from the 12 steps and give a testimony, take maybe a couple of sentences, like maybe one or two sentences from the testimony, something that really stood out, and put that into a little newsletter. It doesn't even have to be fancy, but just, it's something that you can put on the desk of every single staff member at the church. And then you invite them to some kind of a lunch or brunch or breakfast, some kind of little social gathering. And then you have a couple of people explain, not a testimony, but just explain very briefly, maybe 2-3 minutes, why Celebrate Recovery step studies were how it impacted them. And again, this is just to try and get them on board and expose that we're not just for alcoholics and chemical dependency, but there's a whole bunch of things, from codependency, anger management, overeating, control issues, and just the grief, guilt. So just they need to be exposed to that, and there is a stigma there, so that needs to be broken down, just exposed. Men's step study, they said, as soon as you finish a step study, you start advertising the next one, even if it's a year away. Very important that you do that, because it actually sets the tone for the recovery. You're letting people know this is something that you need to look forward to. This is something you need to put in your agenda, and you need to start thinking about, because it is, as we know, this is Celebrate Recovery. That is the recovery part. It's the 12 steps, not just showing up to meetings. Let's see. Yeah, so keep advertising. Volunteers. We can have, I think that goes with the scheduling assignments. We should schedule, when somebody does something, so that we're not doing it a couple of minutes before the meeting begins. Rotating the lead for the men's small group. I thank you guys for letting me take over that, but I think it's also important that we not only train other people, but that we allow other leads that visibility, so that others are able to see them and get to know them, even if it's just by listening to them and their personality. And again, it's very important. One of the things that came up during the questions and answers, I had asked a question about what do you do after 12 steps are over, and they said you immediately start putting people into volunteers and service. Service was the main thing, but when you're in the fourth book, you are finishing the third book into the fourth book, you're already looking at who is going to be the next leader. You're looking for leaders, and you're looking for volunteers, and so that's a very big part of the recovery. So we need to be able to continue to rotate that. And Newcomers 101, that would be nice to do a video. The Bel Air video would be nice to be able to just have as an advertising, and greeters. One thing that doesn't necessarily apply to us, but is very important for a physical meeting, Celebrate Recovery. One thing that came up was that some CRs do not have leader prayer before the CR, because one thing that they said, who shows up early? It's the newcomer. So if your leaders are not out there socializing and engaging and welcoming, these people are just going to say, okay, they're just going to sit, they're going to watch, and they're going to leave. So you need to be able to have the people that know Celebrate Recovery out there. You just can't have volunteers that may not know any details. So there are people that pray over the seats, and yeah, there was a lot of good stuff, a lot of good ideas. But anyways, I thought I'd throw that out there. And then Jose, you have a bun? I don't know what that is. Well, anyways, that's what I wanted to share. So we go back over here, and you go to the main chat. I put down a couple of pictures just to be able to add something to this. That's myself arriving at Celebrate Recovery Summit on Tuesday. Myself with Hosanna Wong and her book, You Are More Than You Believe, I think. And that's Mac Owen, author of Celebrate Recovery, along with Johnny Baker and John Baker. They're not in the picture. But Mac Owen has been one of the people that has written a lot of the stuff for Celebrate Recovery. He was baptizing people. And we can also use this as a prayer request. I was asking for prayer for a very dear Celebrate Recovery sister who does videos, and she's battling bipolar and depression, and she put out a video, and it was very touching, and I wanted to respond to that, and I want people to pray for that. So again, this is just the format that most CRs seem to be using, as opposed to WhatsApp or chat, Google Chat, because you can only use Google Chat if you have a Google or a Gmail. And what else? There's a couple of others that are specifically for churches, but again, you have to use another app. It gets a little bit more complicated, and I thought, many people might already be using this. It's a good forum. I like it. So, just information, FYI. Thank you, guys.